Alright, we'll start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wasallam. نويت التعلم والتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب الصافي وهاني وهب يا غاني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب الصافي وهاني وهب يا غاني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب الصافي وهب يا غاني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ربنا واجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك. قال ربي هب لي من لدنك ذرية طيبة إنك السميع الدعاء. وإذ قال إبراهيم رب اجعل هذا البلد آمنا واجنبني وبني أن نعبد أصناما رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وادخلني برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه واصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك. So mention our intentions. الحمد لله. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Okay. Alright, thanks. Go ahead. Alhamdulillah. How is everyone? Like very few people today. I think they I put a reminder right on the group. Yeah, just to wonder where's everyone. Okay. Alright, so alhamdulillah. Okay, we are going to continue with our poem. Right. So we actually reached the part the last lesson. I'm going to do a bit of revision. I'm going to do a bit of revision, right? And then we'll continue from there, right? And from there we need to also understand that of course a lot of these things it has a lot to do with our own practice, right? We need to really put these things to practice, because otherwise then it will not then it will not benefit lah, right? It's a knowledge that really we need to put it to practice. There's no point us learning all of these things and then you're still doing the same thing over and over again with your children, right? I mean, you need to there needs to be betterment lah and improvement as you move along with this, right? Alright, so okay, so I'm going to sing some of the verses and then we'll continue from there. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Just find my page. Okay. Alright. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We're on verse 15, On verse 15. I'm not sure what page that is in the English book. Yes. The breastfeeding. Yeah. فينبغي إرضاع كل طفل صالحة بقولها وفعل تأكل حلالا من الحرام فالطبع قال تابع الطعام إذا خبث رضاعهما لا إلى فعل الخبيث آخرا وأولا وبعد ما يفطم تجده يشتهي أكل الطعام دائما لا ينتهي يعلمه الأكل باليمين والبسملة حتما بكل حين ولا يبادر قبل أكل صاحبي ويأكل العشاء الذي بجانبي. Alright, so the last time round we spoke about tahnik, right? Right, we did speak about tahnik. Right, we spoke about tahnik and we spoke about some hadith, right, about how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he would do tahnik onto babies, right? And we also spoke about the importance of us seeking as many pious people, as many righteous individuals to do tahnik for our children, right? Because in the barakah of these people, in their blessings, in the dua also, because whenever these ulama, these righteous people, whenever they do tahnik, they will always dua for the baby. Right, so you want their specific dua for the baby, right? So especially people who are like they are from the descendancy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So they have this entire link, right, all the way up to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he would do tahnik onto his grandchildren, Sayyidina Hassan, Sayyidina Hussein, and then they would do tahnik onto their children, and they would do tahnik onto their children, all the way down to the descendancy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you have entire link, right, up to the tahnik of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So it is it's important lah, right, not to just be satisfied with one tahnik, right, but to just seek and to find, right, the people around, right, your teachers, whosoever lah, any righteous individual, right, like Habib Taha and Maqam Habib Nuh and whosoever lah, you can find them and make them do tahnik for your children, so that they will increase in the barakah of your the dua lah onto your children. So there's a part about tahnik. Alright, then about naming, right? So we're on the 7th day. Right, so now, so with the birth of the child, of course, the tahnik happens, right? But tahnik does not end with the birth of the child. Right? Tahnik continues, right? It's not said when is the oldest age you can still tahnik them, right? But then usually within the first year lah. Within the first year, you can really bring them to the ulama, right, around and get them to be tahnikt, right? The first few months especially, but if like you find Habib coming in later on, you can go to Habib, or Habib Umar in the later part of the year or whatever, right? As long as the child can eat. If not, just give him the date and then just Habib doakan, right? So so on the 7th day. Right, 7th day, and this can happen on the 7th day or the 14th day or the 21st day, right? So it goes in sevens, right? So on the 7th day, what do we do with our children? Right, of course, the naming. Now there's a khilaf, right? Some say that on the first day you can name the child, and some say on the 7th day you name the child. And Rasulullah it has been related from him both. Right, so some parents, they will give the child the first name on the first day, and they will give the child the second name on the 7th day if they want to. Right, if they want. For some people, they have like Muhammad something, so they give Muhammad on the first day, that kind of thing, or something Abdullah, right, or Abdullah something. So they just give like one name on the first day lah. Right, but it's really up to you, right? So, but there is a strong hadith about the 7th day, right, of giving the name for the child. Right, the naming of the child, there are many hadiths, several hadiths lah, that speak about naming of the child, right? Of course, and never underestimate the naming of the child, right? Because it is the right of a child, right, that you give the child a good name. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself did. There is a balance in naming, right? So not to give very grand names, right? So like I don't know, like if I'm very very high. I mean, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were people called al-barrah. Right, al-barrah is the one who is freed from the one who is the bir, and the one who has righteousness. Right, so Rasulullah he did not allow that. Right, in a way, because it's so much like too heavy, right, too heavy for a child to carry. Right, what the scholars or what the ulama they like, right, is the use of good names, right, with good meaning, one thing, right, or names after righteous people. Right, so you can do it either way. Right, so the naming, right, so for children specifically, there is a hadith whereby Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that the best of names is Abdullah and Abdul Rahman. Right, these are the best of names. There's a hadith that says that. right? And then Rasulullah SAW himself, he named his child after Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. When his child Ibrahim was born, he said that a child was born to me last night, and I have named him after my father. Right? So we know the names of prophets are also encouraged to use the names of prophets. Right? And they have beautiful names, prophets. Right? So you don't even have to look so far. Right? There are 25 prophets, there's more than that. You can go and search the name and go and find a good name for your son. There's a hadith about Rasulullah SAW says that, for surely you will be called by your names on the day of judgment, right? And by the names of your father. Right? So be careful as to how you choose the names. Right? So you don't want to be called some strange name just because it sounds good. And now it's like the trend nowadays, whereby they just they like all these Tyler Milo, like, whatever names. Whereas like the most beautiful names are the names of the Sahaba, the names of the pious, the names of, good meaning names. Right? It doesn't have to be, fancy. Right? You don't have to think of fancy names. Right? Just think of goodness. Because, and also it is also, the ulama, they do say that you will be gathered with the ones whom you were named after on the day of judgment. Right? So, that's a good thing. So, what's name now? Right, so there's and in the Burda there's a line, right, by Imam Busiri, and Imam Busiri's name is Muhammad. Right, and the Burda, he writes in one of the lines in Burda, he says that I have nothing to show on the day of judgment except by mine being named Muhammad, for surely he is the best of those who keeps promises. Right, in the line of Burda, right, he says that in my dhimma, right, in my protection is my name Muhammad, because there's a lot of hadith about those being named Muhammad. There's a lot of hadith about those being named Muhammad. That barakah descends on the house, there has somebody in there named Muhammad. And so in our culture it's good, because in our culture people like to put the word Muhammad in front of another name. Right, so the name of that person is Muhammad anyway. Right, so it's a good culture that we have, but also one thing about the Sahabas, they were careful about is that when you name your child Muhammad, like then they always, then when you want to scold the child, you need to be very careful, right, about not using the word Muhammad and then scolding the child. Right, so like for example, like if the child lies, right, so you say, are you lying, and you put the word Muhammad next to it, right, so you can't do that. And the Sahabas, they be like, no, you cannot put the word "are you lying" with the word Muhammad in the same sentence. You can't do that. With the adab, with the name Muhammad lah. So you say, "Are you lying?" and full stop. don't say the name of a child. Or they will, like in the Arab culture, they will twist the name and they say Hamudi. Right? So they will just, in a sense, they will just twist the name. So all like great names, they will just twist the name a bit, so that if you want to scold the child, you will not blemish the name that the child is being named. But of course, in learning parenting, we don't scold children that way, right? But then you try to make dua for them when they are, especially if they are misbehaving, right? So may Allah set you on the right path. May Allah make you those who are truthful. Oh Muhammad, right? You are definitely very truthful, oh Muhammad. Right? So in a sense, you change your words, right? And that will make you more careful, So Fatima, Aisha, Khadija, these are all names that we all like. If you go to Tarim, everybody is either Fatima or Khadija or Aisha or Zainab, or they have like all the Sahaba, right? The Sahaba, the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? But any good name, right? Any good name, as mentioned in several hadith, right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the hadith about being named Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a man who named his child Muhammad in time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the people, they were not very happy about it. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it's okay, name your children by my name but not by my kunya. That means don't call them Abu Qasim. Right? Abu Qasim is a kunya. The kunya basically is like a not a surname also. It's like an address. Right? Like how today we have Mr. Tan, Mrs. Tan. Like back then, that's how they would address a person, an adult. They would say Abu Qasim, Abu Fatima, Abu. It's an address. Right? It's more of like an address. Like father of so and so, mother of so and so. Instead of calling somebody by their name, right? So he did say that not to use my kunya. Right? Don't call each other by my kunya, but you can call each other by my name. Right? So on the 7th day, if not the 7th day, then the 14th day, not the 14th day, 21st day, you have like quite some time to think about the name, right? Figure out the name, Right? So don't have to rush. 7th day, figure a name, just put any name lah. Khalas. Right? And of course, if you would like, get a religious person to name your child. Right? Usually, Usually, but of course, the moment you do that, and whatever name that the religious person gives you, you must take. Okay, you cannot like go there and ask and then like, I don't like the name. You know, like don't have bad adab if anyone is religious. So, but if you feel you don't want to do that, then there's 2 ways of doing it. You either don't do it, or you go there and you say, Habib, what do you think of the name? You know, for this child. Like you give the name, like, and if he changes it. Then of course you must take the other name, right? So you say, oh, I feel like, or if you want, this is Omar, you know, and you give, this is Omar. So you say the name of the child, but he can still change it. He can still change it. You say, no, he's not Omar, he's Ahmad, right? So then and that has to do with the soul of the child. Right? Some souls, they are more, you know, agitated and whatever. It depends on the soul of the child. Right? So don't underestimate the names. Okay, so for females, good meanings and Sahaba names, Maryam and so on. For males, Abdullah, Abdul Rahman, Abdul, any of Allah's names, Abdul Ghafoor, Abdul Rahim, whatever, Allah's names, you can use that, you do it Abdul, but make sure when you call them with the Abdul in front. Right? Don't just, throw away the Abdul and call them Rahman, Abdul Rahman, right? Because only Allah can be Ar-Rahman. You cannot call somebody Ar-Rahman. Right, you can't do that. Right? So you have to, so be careful lah. You're choosing names and then anyhow, and don't like butcher names and destroy the entire meaning in the names. Like our culture, we have a very bad habit of doing that. Like just like Abdul Rahman Rahman, like just destroy the whole thing. All right, so Muhammad becomes Ahmad. I mean, just be cautious. Muhammad. Right, just be and if you don't want don't want difficult name, Ahmad is so easy. Like Ahmad, you can't go wrong with Ahmad. Just think about it. Right, so what's Sayyidina Muhammad and Sayyidina Omar, like he loved the names of, he loved the hadith so much about Abdul Rahman being the most beloved name to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he had 3 children named Abdul Rahman. Right, so he would call Abdul Rahman Kabir, Wasit was Saghir. Right, the big, middle, and small, and that was how they would do it. Alright, so the 7th day, of course, the shaving of the head. Right, the shaving of the head, and then giving sadaqah by the weights of silver or gold. Right, and of course, when you do these things, your intentions, never forget your intentions. So when you name the child, what are the intentions in naming the child this name? And from there, you'll be guided as to what name you're going to choose. Right, because it's a trust on you, it's a trust. So when you name the child this name, then, put in all the intentions and make the intentions akhirat intentions. Right, don't just keep to this dunya punya intentions. Right, so if you, like for example, my name, Farhana, right, it means happy. Right, of course, the Arabs think is the most hilarious name because they've never heard it before. Apparently, it's a very popular name amongst the Malays and Indians. Right, but the Arabs, no such thing. No one calls their daughter Farhana. But amongst us, it's like so many Farhanas I know. Especially in my time in school, like there were like 5 Farhanas in my school. Right, but now not so. Now kids, nobody named Farhana anymore. Like, I think our time we would find a lot of Farhanas around. Right. But then if my mom gave me that name, right, in fact it was my grandmother that gave me that name, right, so the intention, right, is that Allah makes me happy in this world and the next, right, so that I don't feel there's no point me being happy here and then unhappy in the next world. Right, so that the intention, may Allah, and that is one of the du'as whereby the Sahaba, whenever they see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam smiling or laughing, right, they will come and they will say, may Allah continue to keep you smiling and laughing, Ya Rasulullah, what is so funny? Right, they'll make a dua first and they will ask. Right, and then what they will do with their children will be like, if they see children smiling or laughing, right, as the parent, you say, may Allah keep you smiling and laughing till the day of judgment. Right, you just make that dua when you see them. Because you see them and they look so cute when they laugh, when they smile, and they're amused by whatever they're amused by. Like then you make that dua. Right, and when they are crying, may Allah let you cry now and not in the day of judgment. Right, just make it's very short dua. It's a very short dua, but it makes the mother or the parent more aware. Right, more aware of what exactly you want for your child. Right, so when he's crying, what do you say? Right, may Allah let you cry now, but don't let you cry in the day of judgment. Right, let you be happy on the day, let your face be shining bright on the day of judgment. Right. And when you see them angry, may Allah help you, may Allah water you with the coolness of hilm. And hilm is good naturedness. Right? May Allah water you with that. Soothe this temper that's in you. Right? Just make dua. Don't be exasperated. right? Be so frustrated about this entire child or whatsoever. Don't do that. Right? Don't be that to your child. Right? Be calm and make dua when they are in that state. If you don't like that state that they're showing you, then just make dua. Right? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do this, do whatsoever. You are the mother and you have like the most mustajab dua. Right? So don't waste your words, right, on saying things that don't benefit them in this world or in this world, nor benefits you in this world or the next world. Right? And of the last week we shared, the last lesson we shared the dua of the newborn. Right, so the newborn, when you, and I hope you all have memorized that dua. Right, when anybody has a newborn, you just you just say that dua. And that dua, right, at the end of the dua is warzuqrum birrahu. Right, when Allah grant you the piety of this child. Right, so when you see someone's child, straight away you dua. Right, may Allah grant you the piety of this child onto you. Right, and this is the one thing about, I'll make a comment there about parents. Right, and sometimes when people go through divorces, right, and something that is becoming more and more common in our community, and I'm telling this to you whether or not you are a single parent or you know with your husband or whatever, but we all know of people who do go through divorce. Right, we know of people who do go through divorce. So it's for us to spread and to tell people, right, that and one of the biggest mistakes, and my mother, she works with PPS. And she sees a lot of divorce cases, right? And about parents who are fighting and whatsoever, and the children are in between, right? And of course, my mom was telling me the people who suffer the most are definitely the children. They are the ones who suffer the most. And parents don't understand that when they insult when they insult their spouse or their ex-spouse in front of their children, or towards their children, saying that your father is a very bad person, he's an evil person, he's so what, right? And you tell your children all the bad things about their own father, right? You are not doing anything except hurting the child, right? Because that is his flesh and blood, right? You might be divorced and you might have nothing to do with your husband, but your child is bound for life to his father. Right? He can't divorce himself from his father. How can he? And in fact, Islam does not allow him to do so, right? So as the mother, you are doing the child a great disservice by inserting hatred in the heart of the child for his own father. How is he going to do birrul walidain later on? How is he going to be righteous towards his father later on if he has hatred growing in his heart? So what are you doing to your child? You're making him a monster towards his father. He will be held to account. Definitely. He has to be good to his father no matter what his father is. He can be a drunkard or even a kafir. Na'udzubillah. Right? But he can be whatever he is. Son is son, father is father. Right? He has to be righteous to his father. He has no choice. You can be cut off, divorce, khalas. Right? So my mom was kept telling me, it's a huge mistake that people do to their children. They think that they are doing well by making their children turn against the other parent. They think, and it happens a lot. If you know those who are going through divorces, it happens a lot. Making the children go, turn against the other parent. You are doing them a great disservice in this world and the next world. Right? And not even a great disservice, you are oppressing them in this world and the next world. Right? So, even my nephew, Khalil, and there's no issues between my sister and her ex-husband who has passed away. Right? But as a family, we never say anything negative about his father. Because in his head, he has like this hero father, right, who was there but passed away. So he's in Jannah. Right? And we let him have that because that builds up his esteem. Right? And and because already as an orphan, and sometimes divorced children also, divorced parents, you need to see your child also being like half an orphan. Right? In fact, sometimes the dynamic is even worse than an orphan, because an orphan at least, the father is gone. Like a divorced family, the dynamics is much more difficult and the child is going through trauma. Right? So as a parent, even though you are also going through trauma, you also need to understand that this is a child who's trying to build his emotions. Right? So you don't sabotage, right, the emotional stability of this child. Right? Otherwise, it's going to be a vicious cycle. Right? And he was going to grow up emotionally broken, and he will look for things to try and fit himself, and he's going to go into relationships whereby it will be unhealthy for him, and then it's going to be a cycle over and over again. And this is what's going on in our community. So I'm telling all of you here, right, and alhamdulillah, none of you are going through this, right? But when you know of people who are going through this, right, then you be the advice, right, and you be the person to tell the mother, don't do that to your child. Right? You are not doing anything but hurting the child by talking bad about his own father. Right, that's all. Right, so that's one thing I just mentioned. It's just a da'wah lah. Because one thing about knowledge that we also need to da'wah to those who are around us. So what you learn here, you're a small group, right, you spread to those whom you know. Right, you tell them. And when we rectify our children, inshallah, society as a whole will be rectified. Right, inshallah, it will be rectified. Right. So, Sayyidina Muhammad. Alright, so Sayyidina Muhammad. Alright, so there are guidelines that the ulama have mentioned about names. Just a bit more about names, right? So the guidelines, basically I'm going to give you 3 guidelines. Right? 3 guidelines about names. First thing, make sure that either it has a good meaning, right? Good meaning, right? Or it is after someone who is very religious in this religion, right? After a religious person, and keep it short, right? It's actually a guideline the ulama give. Right, it's from a hadith also, like about not having cumbersomely long names. Right? This short, right? So that and also because when you go too long, people will always shorten it anyway. So when they shorten it, they're gonna call the child with a name that has 0 meaning. Right? In that they'll be like Ba or something, like some random name that comes out because they try to shorten your very long name. Right? So then you're gonna miss the whole point of name. Right? So short name, Nur. In Tarim, people are named Nur, just Nur. Nothing else. Noor. It's a very nice name. Right? It's Noor bint Ahmad. Noor bint Ahmad. Wow, so short. Right? So easy. Right? Easy names. Short names, easy names. Right. Okay. There is a hadith, right, that speaks about so on the 7th day, name, shaving of the head, niyats for shaving of the head. Right? All the niyats, the shaving of the head, the niyats, it centers around knowledge. Alright, so when you shave your child's head on the 7th day, you intend, right, in the shaving of the head, of course, following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that light be shine onto this child because you are following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that you niyat that this head open up, right, to knowledge that will benefit him in this world and the next world. Right, that this head, right, this brain in there, it is able to guide the heart, because the heart is the king of the body, right? But the head is the minister, as said in one of the ulamas has described the body situation. So the head is your minister, the heart is the king, right? And you have all these enemies that's attacking you from all around you, right? The shaitan, nafs, hawa, dunya, they're all attacking you. Right? So you have your heart, who is the king. The heart always consults the head, right? The heart will consult the head as to what to do. So the head needs to be clear and rightly guided, right, as to what to do. So you make as much intentions as you can when it comes to shaving the head of your child. Right, there is a practice by the ulama whereby they shave the head 40 times. For boys, don't do it for your girls. Okay, 40. Right, 40 times. Right, this is known is a widely known practice by the ulama. This is known to expand the knowledge, right, or the absorbing of knowledge into a boy's head. And it's not too late. If your child has already grown, you can still do it. Right? There's no limit to when you should be doing it. But of course, if you do it early, then easier lah. Right? Then the child can later on, it's easy. So what they would do is that they would shave it on the Wednesday every week. Right? Some would say every 2 weeks to let the hair grow a bit. Right? Because if you keep shaving, there's nothing to shave. Right? So by 1 week, depending on your child, if by 1 week enough hair has grown, then you shave again. Right, so every Wednesday, right, or you can split it out every first Wednesday of the month. Right, do it on a Wednesday. Right, every first Wednesday of the month whatsoever. Do it 40 times. So if you're going to once a month, it's going to be 40 months. So the child will be quite of an age, 4 years, 3 years plus. Right, if you're going to do 12 months a year, right, so that's going to bring you to about 3 years old plus. Then the child will begin to grow hair. Right, but if you do it every week, then 40 weeks are 10 months. Right, depending on the hair growth of the child, don't hurt your child by forcing him to be shaved when he has no hair. Right, wait until hair grows. Okay, right, and the whole head, entire head, right, fully clean shaved. Right, my sister, she did for Khalil, my nephew, and she used the razor lah, the normal razor. Right, she would put the shaving cream on that, and then she would shave flat. Right, so it's completely bald. My mother, she only did it to one of my brothers, not all. Right, and that brother, he's the most intelligent of all of us. Yeah, he's like, by my mother, I think the first 3 she was like too busy or something. Because between that brother and me, there's 2 years. So maybe she had more time to handle shaving a child. And I think my youngest brother, she's like, alah, tak payah lah. Like, Do I have two lah? It's too leceh. So she only had the semangat for one son. And my sister was saying, you need semangat. You need to, it's 40 times, ya Allah. Girls tak ada. Yeah, so girls, you just doakan for them. You comb their hair, doakan. And in fact, there are cultures whereby the shaving of the head for the girls is also not recommended. Right? Depending. Right? So for girls, there's nothing to be said about shaving of the head. Right? But for boys, there is. Right? There is. And then on the 7th day, also, there's one practice. Of course, Aqiqah. Aqiqah, make your intentions. Right? It can be on the 7th, 14th, 21st day. Intentions. Right? So intentions of Aqiqah, what can they be? Right? First thing, make this child not attached to the dunya. Because Aqiqah is basically your celebration of this child coming into your life. Right? It's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you celebrate, what do? You feed the people. Right? You sedekah. You feed the people. Aqiqah is sunnah, it's not wajib. It's sunnah. Right? But of course, there are ulama, that say that for as long as the child has no aqiqah done onto him, right? Basically, the barakah that is going on to be on this child is hanging. It's not descending yet. So until you do the aqiqah, right, the barakah is just, suspended. It's not falling onto the child. So the aqiqah, it is important lah for you to do. If you find out, because I had a question once, if you find out that your parents were too poor when you were born to do aqiqah onto you, right? If you find out, and it happens that people, they are born and their parents are very poor, right? And they couldn't. And aqiqah for boys, 2 goats. It's no joke, right? 2 goats is quite an amount, right? Especially for people dulu. Orang dulu macam 2 goats is very expensive. For girl is 1 goat. And if you have that question, which I have gotten so many times, like, why girls 1 goat and boys 2 goats? Are boys more special than girls? Like, people ask kind of questions and you just never even occurred to you. Like, why in the world do you ask that kind of question? Like, but people ask that question. Basically, like, what some of the ulamas have said is that the reason why boys 2 goats and girls 1 goat is because in the past, in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, already the Arabs hated girls. They hated having girls, and they saw girls as a burden, a financial burden. So if you're gonna put 2 goats on the girl, right, they're gonna hate having girls. It's like, alamak, now I have to give 2 goats lagi. Like they're just gonna hate having girls altogether. So they actually made the financial burden heavier on the boy. Right, now 2 goats on the boy. Like, so it's expensive to have boys. Girls is cheaper a bit. Right? It's for Allah to lighten this hatred for girls. For them to start liking girls, to have girls. And Zainab Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to say to the people who were burying the baby girls alive, he used to say to them that I don't agree with this practice. This was before Rasulullah's message. He used to say that I don't agree with this practice, and I see that girls are benefit. Girls are blessings. Like, the girls, they are the one who looks after you when you grow old. Right, not your boys, right? They are the ones. Maybe the boys, Allah Alam. Right, but it's the girls. He was saying, it's my daughters who come to me when I am old and when I'm in need. Right, it's them. Right, so he was someone who was very strongly against people who hate girls. And it's also, we mentioned last week also, did we? Last week, a few weeks ago, whereby Sayyidina Aisha, when she was given the good news of a birth amongst the women of Medina, right, she would only ask one question, right, and that is the child healthy? Right? She would never ask boy or girl. She actually would not. Right? And it's actually why they wouldn't ask boy or girl, and it's really bad adab to ask boy or girl in case the emotion that comes with it is negative. In case you show a negative emotion. In case. So just to be very careful to show there's no preference, boy or girl, right? All she would ask is the baby healthy? And when she's told yes, she say Alhamdulillah. Right, the baby is healthy. So she wouldn't even because sometimes they say boy again, okay lah. Next time girl, okay? Then people do that kind of things, but you're not supposed to. Right? And it's why, even like our culture, completely terbalik. Terbalik all the way. Even to check the gender, some of the ulama have said that it is not of good adab. It's not good adab to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to check the gender. Right? Because, the affair of the womb is supposed to be secret. Right? So, and sometimes, some of the ulama that I've heard them say that when you check the gender and then the doctor says, oh, it's a girl, right? What if the machine was wrong and it came out to be a boy? So and it happens. You have read all the stories. It happened. You gave birth, boy, it's not a girl. What happens is that this whole hope of having a girl, suddenly you're disappointed by the gift that Allah just gave you. And that's very bad adab. very, very bad. That's why they don't even, check, right? So that you're happy whatever it is. Right, don't be upset, girl or boy, and don't compare and don't comment. Must go and tell like all this, older aunties. Don't comment when somebody has like girl. I don't say, oh, semua girl, kesian lah, kesian lah. Alhamdulillah, it's all girls, all boys. Doesn't matter. It's good as long as the child is righteous. And there are many hadiths about girls. Many hadiths about righteous girls. The father who brings up 2 righteous girls on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and marries them off till puberty, right? Then he is guaranteed for him a place in paradise. Guaranteed. Right? His daughters will guarantee for him. Right? So for girls, there are hadiths, right, about those who bring up good girls. Right? Of course, good children is all together. Right? There is one practice that we don't really do in Singapore that I saw in Tarim. Right, so I'm going to say the practice, right, and then I've never tried it myself also because I have no children, right, but I actually liked it when I saw it, right. So what they would do is that for a newborn, for the first 100 days, they would write one name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the forehead of the child. They would use a black substance. Right, here you can use celak lah if you want. Right, celak apa? Right, a black substance, but they use jadam. Right, jadam or what jadam? Right, it's like a black stone. You can write with it. Right, or celak lah. Right, anything, and they will write on the forehead of the child. So every day for the first 100 days of the birth of the child, there will always be a name on the forehead. Any baby that you see in Tarim, then you know that they are newly born. Right, anyway, so from Allah, then Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, and continue from there. Right, so all the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What they say is that these names, Allah's mercy descends onto his names. Right, so the attribute of the name, right, will enter the child. That means he will understand the attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, but of course I know it's hard if you keep bringing your baby into the toilet. Right, and the first 10, you're gonna wash the baby and everything, and it's the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kat situ kan. Right, so what they would do is that they would put it in the morning for a while, then wipe it off. Right? Otherwise, you might bring Allah's name into the bathroom, or if you can, then just change and wash the baby up, like outside. Right? But best be careful of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Not to bring the baby into the bathroom with the name there. Okay, put it for a while with niyat, right? And then if you have good intentions, and then wipe it off. Right, so all this practice of what the ulama have done lah. They all do all kinds of things lah with their babies. Alhamdulillah, right? And when it comes to their pantang, right? You all like, when it comes to the confinement period, the pantang period and everything, right? They are very, very careful. I think we have come to a society whereby people don't care about pantang anymore, and they don't care about confinement period anymore. Right? But I hope none of you here are like that. Right? Care about pantang and care about confinement period, because basically these two things, right? Of course, there is no law in the religion. If you talk about confinement, there's no law. There's no law at all. Right? The only law that there is nifas, which is basically that you cannot pray, you cannot fast. Right? You're on nifas, right? But this, you will call it wisdoms, right? It's basically for the health of. Remember, we were talking about the human being having 4 parts, right? Right? You have your intellectual, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual. Right? It is on 3 parts. You can say mental also lah if you want. But basically your physical health, your emotional health, and your spiritual health, it does hinge on your confinement. It does. Right? Don't underestimate that. Right? Physical health is obvious. Your womb needs to rest, and you don't understand the stretching of the womb and the delivery of the baby. The entire thing is traumatic for the body. The body has undergone trauma, right? So the body needs to rest. You think you're okay, you're not. You just think you're okay, but you're not. Right? The confinement period is very important. In Tarim, they wouldn't even leave the room they're in. But of course, they have family helping them everything lah. Right? So if you visit anybody who just gave birth for the entire pantang period, 40 days, right, they would not move from the bed. The baby is there, all they do is breastfeed, put back. Breastfeed, put back. That's all they do. People do everything else for them. Right? That is basically for the health of the womb. The health of the womb, right? And I think we have a lot of issues now with the womb nowadays, with people especially, and they have to like remove their womb and whatsoever. So it's really important that you don't break these 40 days. Like at least the home you don't move around, right? And if you have like stairs in the home, try not to climb up so much. Stay either downstairs all the time or upstairs all the time, right? But don't move, right, so much, and don't exercise. If you're like, alamak, gemuk sangat, like, don't exercise in the first 40 days. Don't. Maybe some stretches if you want, right? But no, nothing vigorous. Your spiritual health, okay, your emotional health, okay. Already pregnancy is very emotionally trying. It is. Like, and as women, we don't deny that. And, some of my teachers, they have said that of the wisdoms as to why it's haram to divorce a woman when she's pregnant or when she's on her menses is that she's on an emotional unstable state. So she does things and she says things that will annoy her husband, like, or really stress him up. So Islam, being merciful on the woman, made it haram for the husband to divorce her. Right? So he cannot divorce her because she's in a state whereby she's not herself. Right? And those of you who have been pregnant, you are basically not yourself. Right? Because of the emotions, of course the hormones and whatsoever lah. Right? So Islam put a stop that you cannot harm this woman, right, or divorce this woman when she's on an emotional high, like in that sense, right? So pregnancy is emotionally tiring. That's why before pregnancy, do try to have your spiritual state stable, right, with your Quran, your zikir and whatsoever. So when you do go into pregnancy and it brings you up to an unstable emotional state whereby you do cry a lot, you do get frustrated, you do get this, you get that, and it's tiring and whatsoever, and then it's even worse when the man doesn't understand a single thing of what you're going through, and people are just being so cruel about it, right? And in your mind it goes, banyak benda lah, I know all of you know what it's about lah, I thought like I know, I don't know. Right, but I've seen as many people as I've seen lah, right? And to see the pregnant woman with a lot of mercy, right, because she's in a state, right? So after giving birth, her state continues, right? Which is why postnatal depression is a very real thing, right? And postnatal depression, right, can come, right, because of the ignoring of the confinement rules and the ignoring of the pantang rules. It can be a cause of postnatal depression, right? Postnatal depression, and which is why it is important that she's at home and people visit her, come to her, talk to her. Right? She's not left by herself alone. Right? So that is, that's why they have this entire thing going on. Which is why in Iddah period also, Iddah is when you're divorced or when your husband passes away and you can't leave the house. Right? You're basically in Iddah. Right? That is also important for the spiritual state and emotional state of a woman. Right? She needs to be in the home. Right? We don't understand a lot of things. And we don't really know much about our soul. Anyway, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows. Right? The spiritual state is weakened after you give birth. Of course, you are now clean of sins, right? But you're on nifas. So when you're on nifas, right, because you can't pray, you can't zikr, you can't read Quran, right, you're on a spiritual low, right? So it is important that you do stay home, right, and not go out there and expose yourself to other things that you don't see that is out there, right? And nor your baby, right? So just be very careful, and emphasize to those whom you know, right, to not take this lightly, right? Confinement, 40 days in our culture. In other cultures, it is the entire nifas period, If that, then it's darurat lah. Darurat. If it's a premature baby. Yeah lah. It will affect, but then you just dua that you have. You just make dua to Allah. So you have no choice, like in that state, or like for somebody who's traveling. Right? So if you're traveling and then you give birth, right, and then you have to come back to your hometown, that kind of thing, right? So of course there are things whereby you don't have control over lah, right? But as far as you can, do not move so much, do not travel so much. Try your best to be, in one place. Try your best not to move so much. Okay, that is important, Alright. Okay. So, alright. So there is a hadith whereby Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, right, that 8 things they are from fitrah. Right, 8 things are from the natural state of a human being. Right, what are they? Right, so the first thing is gargling. Right, gargling. That means your madmana, your gargling, madmana. Right. So when you take a wudu, that is from the natural state. Right, istinshaq is to the nose. That means, right. So that is also from the natural state. From the hadith lah. I'm just basically quoting hadith. Right, shortening the mustache. Clipping the moustache is of a natural state. That means not let the moustache grow long from a whole hadith. And then siwak, brushing your teeth, is from natural state. And the reason why Rasulullah is saying this hadith is because it seems like an unnatural thing to do. You're like, why is brushing your teeth natural? Why is clipping my moustache natural? Wouldn't natural be letting my moustache run? Right? No. So he's correcting the mentality. Right? So moustache is natural to clipping. Right? Washing your mouth, washing your nose is natural to do. Because sometimes as human beings, we might wash our body but not wash our mouth nor nose. So it is natural to actually wash your nose all the way in. So it's sunnah for you to, when you take your wudu, sniff until it hurts. Okay, until it hurts, and then push it out. And then push it out. Okay? But when you're not fasting. When you're fasting, don't do that. Right? Because it will go into your throat and then you batal puasa. Alright. Any questions? No, So 8, So first thing is mouth, washing the nose, clipping the moustache, and then siwak, brushing the teeth, clipping the nails, right? So all sunnah of nature, right? And then plucking your armpit hairs, right? So anyone who's like, I'm going all natural, that's not all natural. Rasulullah said of nature is to remove your armpit hairs, right? Pluck, So sunnah is to pluck. For me, I cannot tahan. Plucking is like... So, but it's sunnah to pluck. Pluck or wax or whatsoever. For me, it's like I can't tahan. Then the pubic hair you shave, right? And the last one is circumcision, khitan, right? And there's a huge debate now for Muslims. It's very sad how people have digressed, right? From what Rasulullah has shown us, they're so against khitan. Right? Khitan is circumcision. Circumcision is of the natural state of a human being. Right? Nabi Ibrahim, he was the first one to be circumcised. Right? So if you want to follow the way of our prophets, right, and the righteous, they were people who were circumcised. They were. Right? So girls and boys. Okay, don't think just boys, girls also. There is a sunnah for girls, and some ulama say it's wajib. There's the difference between sunnah and wajib for girls. Alright? So don't underestimate this. And you can do for the boys, sometimes they do at the age of 7, but my mother, she's like on the opinion on the 7th day, right? Because they are babies and they can't run around, right? So they can't walk, so might as well do it now, khalas. Then when they're older and then they can run around and they're like in pain the entire time, right? So when they're babies, just do it lah, and then finish the job. For girls, it's a very small clip. So if anybody will tell you that it is FGM, it's not FGM. FGM means female genital mutilation. It is not. If you've seen any girls being circumcised, it's not FGM. If you know why it's FGM, it's something completely different. Right? It's just circumcision. That's all. It's a small clip. That's all it is. You know what's FGM? Female genital mutilation. Right? In other cultures, what they do is that they sew up the girl. They destroy the entire thing and they sew it up, right? To keep the girl chaste lah, so-called lah, apa benda. Islam does not have any of that. Islam is just a small clip. If somebody were to ask you, why must you do circumcision? We were born that way. Same thing with your armpit hair. Same thing with your pubic hair. Same thing with your nails. Leave like your nails. If you want to talk about nature. Your nails are naturally growing. Leave them growing right? You can't do anything. You have a heavy hand. Kan? I mean, it's a ridiculous argument. And we never know what is required of the human body in the womb. You never know if that flap of skin that was there was required for the child stay in the womb. You never know. Then when it's out, it's not required anymore. We actually don't know what these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed, what are they for. Right? So the appendix, to say the appendix is useless, we don't know. Allah placed the appendix there. I have my appendix removed. I have appendicitis. Right? But my mom was like, you don't know why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it there. Right? Why? Okay, so circumcision is, Hababa Maryam, she says that when it comes to circumcision, of the benefits lah, and the scholars have suggested, is that it does keep the chastity of a girl. Right? Your chastity is kept. So when you do circumcise your girls and boys, have the niyats to do with chastity. Right? That they stay away from fahisha, right? From lewdness, from indecency, right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect their privates, right? From anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates. Right? And especially for boys and girls in today's time, this dua is so important. Right, to make all these niyats when you circumcise. Right, do not take it lightly. However, Maryam, she was saying that this skin on the flap, right, for both boys and for both girls, for men and women, right, it arouses the human being, it causes the arousal to be higher. Right, so they are easily aroused, right, in a way. And that is not good for Islam. Right, that's not good for Muslims. You don't want to be easily aroused. Right? Right, maybe for, I know there was, I saw an article once, I don't know why I'm reading all these articles, but there was a Muslim who wrote against circumcision, right, saying that science has found out that the removal of the foreskin reduces arousal. And he's like, but I want my arousal. And now I'm like, do you even have a Subhanallah. Those, if you're spiritually sound, right, you would not want to be easily aroused, right, if you're spiritually sound, right? So it helps with your girls. And Hababa Maryam said that the indecency of women today comes down to this. It does come down to this, right? The what do you call it? The looseness of women today comes down to them not being circumcised. It's a secret, right, in there that Islam has taught us. Okay, so don't take lightly whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever Rasulullah has said. Right? Whatever he said, just do. Right? And it's good for you, And don't fall into the trap of today's world when they discuss, when they they talk against all of these things, that basically there is no basis for them. And they will even tell you that, circumcision has no scientific evidence to show its benefits. Science is still on its way. The Sunnah has gone first. Right? Science is yet to catch up. Right? So whatever science has not found out yet does not mean it's not good. It just has not found out what it's for yet. That's all. So science is still behind, right? About when it comes to circumcision, right? Okay. So now the 7th day. Okay. So now we finish the 7th day, right? Of course, with all of these things that you do, intentions, as much as you can with your intentions, right? So now today's verses, it goes into breastfeeding. Right? And breastfeeding is perhaps the most important parts of your child's life, right? And also your position as the mother to this child, right? So he says here, فَيَنْبَغِي إِرْضَاءُ كُلِّ طِفْلِ صَلِحَةٌ بِقَوْلِهَا وَفِعَلِ. So the first thing he says, so it's only incumbent, only important that every child be fed, right, by a woman who is pious or righteous in her words and her actions. He's not even talking about food yet. Right, the first thing he says, that the wetness or the mother who's nursing, she needs to be pious in her words and her actions. So she needs to be righteous in what she says, not scolding people, not shouting, not losing her temper, not all of these things. She needs to be to take care. What is she singing on her mouth? Is she singing all kinds of merepek songs, like pop songs or whatsoever, or is it salawat? Is it zikir? Is it Quran? Like, what is she doing? Right? And then her fi'al, her actions. Right? So is she being disobedient? Right? If she's being disobedient, she's passing disobedience to her child. Right? It's definitely, no doubt. She's passing disobedience to her child. Right? So she needs to take care of what she's doing. Disobedience to who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to her husband, to her parents. Right? There's an entire range of people, right, whereby you have to be obedient to. Right? So she needs to, and I know it's hard. It's hard, right? But that is what Islam is. Right? Islam is a religion that destroys your ego. That's the entire. If you can understand that, you've understood this religion. Right? And if you understand that, you can follow this religion, whereby the ego is shattered. Right? You are not important. Like, I'm telling all of you are not important. Right? You are not someone. You don't place importance in the self. That's what Islam is about. No, it's like motherhood is a path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need to not care about yourself. It means not place yourself as someone of priority. And motherhood forces you to do that. If you want to do motherhood well, you need to place everybody in front of you, before you. Right? Everybody is more important. Everybody's happiness. Your happiness is on their happiness. Your rest is on their rest. Your peace is on their peace. Right? That is how, motherhood, if you really want to hold on to motherhood, it will bring you to God subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will. Right? If you can put aside your own pettiness, your own desires, your own wants, your own, just put it aside. Right? And focus on the child focus on keeping the marriage sound, right? If you're with your husband, right, keeping the marriage sound, and focus on what is best for your child. Right, that is marriage. That is so first thing, salihan biqawliha wa fi'li. So of course your eyes, are you watching? Right, make sure you're watching what is good, and what you're hearing is good. Right, if people are coming to visit you and then they're just going to go into backbiting, right, try to stop it somehow, because they're coming to your house and they backbite in your house, right? Right. So I mean, if you can try to in a sense stop it, right? Because all of this brings darknesses into you, and you are feeding this milk into your child, right? So if you can, surround yourself with what is good, right? And the ulama, of course, they say that keep a picture of the Kaaba, something in front of you, right, to keep you at peace, right, as you breastfeed. And this is also the one time whereby you, of course, while pregnant and while breastfeeding, you do dictate what the child is eating, what he is consuming, right? So if you want the child, right, I didn't bring my mic today. I don't know if it's so soft. Usually I have my mic with me, and then they are drowned by my mic, but now they're drowning me out. Right, so on Sayyidina Muhammad. See, I forgot what I was saying. Salihan biqawliha wa fi'li. Consumption. Yes, consumption when it comes to your eyes, your ears, what you say, your state, your emotional state. Right. This is why a few lessons ago we spoke about us first, right, our 4 aspects. Right. So the emotional health of a woman, right, is to detach yourself from this world. That will give you very strong emotional health. And I can't even describe the kind of bliss that you will arrive at, right, when you stop thinking of doing things, for yourself or for people, but doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The moment you do that, everything you do is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So no matter what the criticism or what the compliments or what, it's 2 ways, criticism and compliment can both destroy. It can both destroy. And in fact, compliments destroy worse than criticism. Right? Compliments actually destroy you worse than criticism. So if you can just focus your entire life on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, that will bring you to such a state of bliss, of happiness, of security, right? Of really just being very stable, right? Because Allah is constant. Allah is a constant. When you attach your emotional state to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will not go crazy. Right? You will just be a constant in yourself, right? Because you're attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a bliss, it's a bliss. Right? If you can, inshallah, reach there. Right? Inshallah. It's a bliss. تأكل حلالا من الحرام فطبق تابع الطعام. Right? So says here that so one thing he first emphasizes her speech and her actions, and then he says her food. Right? So 3 things for her to guard over: her speech, her actions, her food. Right? While she is breastfeeding. So food halal, not shubha, not try to not do the sugar. Right? If you're not cutting out sugar, please cut out sugar. Right? Cutting out the sugar, cutting out the fast food, just cut out all of these things that it will destroy you lah. It will destroy you. And especially all these animals they are kept in their pens and whatsoever, right? They are stressed out animals. So when you eat all this stressed meat, you also become very stressed. Right? So you need to not try eat ayam kampung lah. Ayam kampung they are better, right? They are free range. If you ever seen ayam kampung they sell in Geylang, right? The bones, Sayyidina Muhammad. Right. The bones are actually longer if you look. Right? They have longer, leaner meat, right, than normal chicken that you buy at the NTUC or whatever. The bones are shorter, right? Because ayam kampung they run, right? So they are, in a sense, you call free range lah, free range chickens, right? In Geylang they sell, you can just buy it. It's not hard at all, and it's not that expensive also, right? So if you want to really jaga lah, right? So here Imam Ghazali he says, right? So he says, فيراقبه في أول عمره في حضانته وإرضاعه فيتحرى لذلك المرأة الصالحة التي تأكل الحلال فاللبن والحاصل من الحرام إذا وقع نشوء الصبي منه. Alright, so he says here, right, that in عجنت طينته من الخبيث فيميل طبعه إلى الخبائث. Now, so he says here that Imam Ghazali says that whatever you are feeding your child from your milk, from your words, from your actions, you are feeding. And there's a hadith whereby Rasulullah SAW said that beware of the wetness, for she gives more than just milk. And so beware. So you are the wetness for this time round. And there is a Sahaba, not Sahaba, Tabi'in. He's Sayyidina Hassan al-Basri, if you know him. And he's the greatest of the Tabi'in. Tabi'in are those who come after the Sahaba. So he was said to be the greatest of the Tabi'in, right, because his mother was a slave girl or was a servant girl of Sayyidina Salama. Sayyidina Salama is the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So his mother, basically when his mother was at work, right, Sayyidina Salama, she would pacify Sayyidina Hassan al-Basri by her own breasts. So some say that she had milk, right, that would come out only for Sayyidina Hassan, and some said no, it was like a pacifier, right, whereby he would quieten down. So from there he got the barakah, right, of the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from there he reached the heights that he reached, right, in spirituality and in worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, it's from the barakah of Salama, Sayyidina Salama, who used to give him her breast. Right, so the woman, they do try to, that if you know of like righteous individuals who are breastfeeding, you can ask them to try and breastfeed your child if you want. Right, but I know our culture, the people feel uncomfortable to breastfeed other people's children. Right, but I mean in Tarim, it's normal. Right, to actually breastfeed across. They would just take a crying baby and just breastfeed. Right, like whose child is this? Right, and there was a story of this alim, and they are so careful what they give their children as milk, right, as food. Right, so there was once this baby who was crying, right, and then a milk lady came, and she was delivering milk, and she also had milk. Right, so she saw the baby crying, and she fed the baby her milk, and the baby stopped, and she put the baby back. So when she left, right, the wife of the house found, she kind of realized that what happened. So she told her husband that your child was breastfed by the milk lady. So the husband has no idea who is the milk lady and what she is and what she does and what, and her state and whatsoever. So the husband, being so careful about what her son eats, and his son grew up to be a very big wali, what he did was that he took a siwak and he forced the baby to throw up the milk. Right? And you might think that it's a bit, harsh, but for them, no. The milk is going to affect the baby. Right? So they don't want any drop of anything that they're not sure of where it came from. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr, same thing. When he was given the milk, there was a bit of, when I mentioned the story, right, the shubha milk. He himself, when he found out that it was shubha, that milk, he made himself vomit everything out. Because they know that it comes into the flesh. And the flesh that is built of something that is shubha or is haram, then it will do what is haram. Right? And what is built on what is righteous and what is pure, then it will, inshallah, do what is righteous and what is pure. Right? So the guarding over the milk, the guarding over the milk. Right? Do not underestimate that. Right? And we have that question last week about the milk of non-Muslims. And so of course, they don't guard over what they say, what they do, nor what they eat. Right? So of course, you will be feeding them milk that is, I would not feed my child. Right? That kind of milk. Right? Breastfeeding, right, in several parts of the Quran, it does say 2 years. Right? There is no haramness. It's not haram to go more than 2 years. It's not haram. But it is highly recommended to stop by 2 years. Right? And as we mentioned before, right, the human being, always remember the 4 aspects. Right? Because with the 4 aspects, it will guide you to what you are deciding on. Right? So many times you only focus on the physical aspect, but the child is made up of 3 other aspects. There's 4 parts of the child. Right? He has his physical nature. Right? He has his intellectual. Right? He has his emotional, and he has his spiritual. Right? There's 4 parts. So when it comes to breastfeeding, maybe science says that breastfeed for as long as you want and that is good for the child. But that's what they say. Right? And they don't know, maybe give them a few years. Because initially my sister-in-law was telling me that when she gave birth to her children, right, that time, the doctors were telling them that formula is far more superior for your child than breast milk. Right? So that's what science said at that time. So science now changed his mind. Right? So science is, basically a work in progress lah. Right? It's not, it's not fact. It's a work in progress. So that time they said that formula is more superior than breast milk. Breast milk is inferior to formula. Or now they say no, breast milk is like gift from God. Yeah, we know it's gift from God. From last time we know about it. Right? And formula is the last thing you give unless you are desperate. Unless you are desperate. So for as long as you can give your milk, give your milk. And of course you jaga your milk lah. don't let your milk be filled with all kinds of disobedience. But also for the milk, there is a time frame. With everything in Islam, excessiveness is not desired, lacking is not desired. There's a middle ground. Everything in Islam is there, right? So even fasting, right? Fasting every day is not at all recommended in Islam to fast every single day. And Rasulullah said that fast every other day. And in fact, he recommended fast twice a week or 3 days a month. Right? So don't do it every day. It's not righteous. And there was a story of 3 Sahaba, right, who said that, when they saw us in some state, right, they swore, I will fast forever and I will not break my fast. And another Sahaba said, I will stay up the whole night forever and I will not sleep. And another Sahaba said, I will not go near women. Right? I swear off women. So when Rasulullah found out about what they said, he called them and he said, are you doing what is against my sunnah? And he said, for I fast and I break my fast. For I sleep and I wake. And for I have women. Right? So in a sense, like to go to an extreme, right? Don't do that. Right? So either extremes in anything in Islam is undesirable. So for wet nursing, there is a limit, right? Which is 2 years. Okay, some ulama say 2.5 years. Okay, at most 2.5 years. What Hababa taught me, and I confirmed with her so many times, over and over and over again about this 2 years thing. Right? Because the ulama, they will not say haram or makruh, right? But they will say recommended. Right? Because they don't want to put a ruling onto it, because some women, they have situations. Right? So in case you are of that situation. But if you are of a choice, then the choice is 2 years or 2.5 at most. And she said that the effect is here, spiritual. The effect is on the spiritual state of the child. Right? So even if science says that the physical state is best, right? Milk is the best thing for a child for as long as they want it. And now they have, child-led, child-led weaning. Right, child-led weaning. Don't do that. Don't do child-led weaning. Right, you wean the child. Child-led weaning basically let a child decide when he wants to stop. That is child-led weaning. It is now a trend. You have not heard of it? It's a trend. Go and do it online. Child-led weaning is a trend now. The child decides when he stops. So you have like 6-year-olds. I've seen 6-year-olds. Like in the West especially, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old still on the breast. Right, so like when is the weaning going to stop? The child is just feeding himself. Right, and the child-led weaning is like saying that I'm going to bring my child to the supermarket and let him choose what he wants. Right, so child-led shopping. Will you do that? Let him choose whatever he wants. You go to the aisle of chocolates, buy everything. And then he will do all the nonsense. Because the child is nafs. He's basically a human being whose akal is not formed very well yet. Right? He's still not tamyiz, not mumayyiz yet. He has a heart and all he knows is nafs at this age. So at 2 years old is the strongest nafs age. Very strong at this age. So which is why Islam, it cuts there. Because after 2 years old, the milk is addiction. It's no longer need. Before 2, it's a need. After 2, it's just addiction. And those of you mothers who have breastfed more than 2 years, it's an addiction. It's just comfort. Addiction is just basically what you are doing is you're feeding the nerves of this child. That is what you are doing. Right, so when a child, and you must try to if you try to wean a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, right, it's terrible. Right, the screaming, the shouting, if you're trying to wean them, unless you can talk to them lah, work something out, right? But because 2 to 2.5, that is when the nerves kicks in very strongly. So if you don't wean by then, you're gonna have a very hard time with these nerves. it's going to be very hard. Right? Weaning tips. But I've never breastfed before. Right? But yeah, how they do is that weaning tips. Right? So I asked Hababa actually about it. So she said that if you want to wean your child, of course there's no one way lah, depending on your child lah. Right? So of course if you can now time the breastfeeding. So get it timed first. Right? So not on demand anymore. If you're someone who does it on demand, so try to make it timed. Right? So if they're approaching 1.5 years, okay, so now time it. Okay, so morning breakfast they get it, right? And try to introduce food, right? So that food will replace it. So when they ask for it, you give them food instead, right? So sometimes, then you can really see whether they're asking it for comfort or they're asking it because they're hungry. If they're hungry, food should suffice. If they're asking for comfort, then you know that the nerves is starting to kick in because they want the comfort of the breast, right? And hug them lah, comfort of the hug, right? But no breast, So first by timing. So don't try to do all cold turkey on them, right? Because it is an addiction. It is. You are facing addiction with this child, right? So if you're going to go cold turkey, it might work, but you might go through a lot of trouble, right? A lot of screaming, shouting, and whatsoever. So if you can, cut it down to feeds, count the feeds, and then slowly cut down the feeds, right? Cut down the feeds. Right? I know of people who they will move towards no day feeds, only night feeds, and there are people who no night feeds, only day feeds, depending on your child. So cut until eventually they are weaned off. Right? If your child is very stubborn about it, right, then I know there are people who do put things on their own breasts, right, to disgust the child from it, to make it disgusting. Right? So they will put jadam, and jadam is very bitter. If you've eaten jadam before, so they make it black and they will say yuck, and they will show the child it's so yucky, you don't want it. And on the other hand, you have cereal or like something to entice them. That's so much nicer, in a way you can. There are people who do that. So in a sense, there's many ways, right? But don't torture your child, right? Don't torture your child, right? So basically, just guard over the emotional nature of your child, but do be firm. Right, so you're given up to 2.5 if you really have to. Right, but by 2, try to get it done. Right, inshallah, I make a lot of dua. That Allah hug them, kiss them, bring them out, go playground, whatever. Get the husband to handle them. Distract, something lah. Right, until they forget all about it. Right, eventually, inshallah, they forget about it. So the breastfeeding thing is to stretch more than 2 years. The harm is here. Right, and so Hababa she was saying that for children who are breastfed for as long as they like, and she said this to me so many times, she will say, Aqul walidain, Aqul walidain, Aqul walidain. Right, that means Aq is the opposite of bir. So that means this child will derhaka the parents, derhaka the parents, derhaka the parents. Right, so this is what she told me lah. I know the ulama have said, right, because he will be a nafs child. Right, so inshallah, if you have done it more than 2 years, then make dua and with your food and whatsoever to reverse the effects. Right, but the ulama have said that children who are breastfed more than 2 years or more than 2.5, this leads to very rude children, self-righteous, and selfish children. Right, so it's all under here, spiritual. So they never comment about anything about it being physically harmful, but they comment about it being very spiritually harmful. Right, that you do that to your child. And here is what they say here. Right. فَتَبْعُدْ قَالُوا تَابِعُدْ طَعَامِ. Alright. So he says here, وَبَعْدَ مَا يُفْتَمْ تَجِدْهُ يَشْتَهِي أَكْلَ طَعَامِ دَائِمًا لَا يَنْتَهِي يُعَلِّمُهُ أَكْلَ بِالْيَمِينِ وَالْبَسْمَلَ حَتْمًا بِكُلِّ حِينِ وَلَا يُبَادِرْ قَبْلَ أَكْلِ صَاحِبِ وَيَأْكُلُ الْعَشَاءَ الَّذِي بِجَانِبِ. Right, so here now, with the weaning of the child, so of course with weaning, so the tips are given, right, and you can look online now of how do I wean my child. And do not listen to all this speech about child-led weaning. Right, this is not a good idea. It's not a good idea. Okay, and if people do breastfeed more than 2 years or 2.5 years, then do advise them. Right, do advise them to to try and stop it. All right. When it comes to Muhammad, when it comes to toilet training, the moment the child begins to understand, right, the feeling of wanting to go to the toilet, you should start trying to toilet train. Right? The reason being is that for as long as he's not toilet trained, he is carrying najis. And when he carries najis, it's going to be difficult for you when you want to pray. Right? Because if he sits on you, he climbs on you, he does things, right? Because they are carrying najis. Right? So, and you don't want to be going around with a lot of najis all the time. Right? So, and it does break your prayer if you are praying and your child sits on you and there is najis in his diaper. It does break your prayer. It does. No, I mean if you know. So if let's say for example before you pray you wash, the child just went and you wash everything, it's clean, and you're very sure it's clean, no problem. Right? But if you're not sure if it's clean or whatever, or when he's sitting you smell something, and then confirm your prayer is broken, you need to stop praying and then wash the child and then start praying all over again. Right? Your prayer. That is under you are carrying najis. It's back to fiqh. Yeah, fiqh. The moment you carry najis, your prayer broken. You cannot, even if it's not on your clothes or whatsoever, your prayer is broken for as long as you carry najis. Right, so you just be very careful about this bab lah. About.
If we carry them when we start praying and there's no najis, we know the diaper is clean.
Yes.
After we finish, we're done praying, then we see that it's soiled.
If probably it happened while you are praying and you're carrying them, then you have to repeat your prayer. I checked this. There is a.
When the infants
So especially when they're infants, okay, if you just have to be very careful about it. Right? For me, I have no experience, but when I asked Hababa, and Hababa was saying that she did that with all her children to just make sure they're very clean, right? And also maybe to comfort them before you pray, so you don't cry. And if they're crying and if you're not sure if they're clean, don't pick them up. If you're not sure, right, don't pick them up. Right? Of course, if they're walking, right? Of course, when they're not able to stand up, then it's no problem. You can choose not to take them. Right? The issue happens when they are toddlers, right? And they come and sit on you, or they jump on your back, right? All the time, all the time. That's why it is better that you toilet train them. You learn to toilet train them because that makes your life easier. Of course, with the diapers and the cost and whatsoever, it makes a lot of things easier. If you can toilet train them, by the age of, I would say, 3. Right? In Tarim, they would toilet train by the age of 1. Right? And you know how you toilet train? It's fascinating because I went to visit one Tarimi. It's fascinating now. They don't have diapers in Tarim because it's a very old system, kan? So they actually have like a what do you call it? Potty, like a potty, right? Whereby it is shaped in a particular way. So the child, since birth, the bum is used to this potty. The bum of the child is used to this potty. So when the mother places the child there and he goes, then she washes him and leaves him off the potty. So whenever she will put him there, the bum knows it's time to go. It's a very automated system. So it's very cute lah. So the child up to the age of 1, he is automated. Right? So whenever she puts him there, he goes. And takes him off, he does not go. So he will not go until he's there. Right? So there's a thing about it. Right? And I know, human beings can do that. Because my cat in Tarim, right? I was scared lah. But basically, my cat, I was trying to train him, to train him to do it in the squatting bowl. Because I trained my Syrian cat to do it that way. In the squatting bowl straight away, so I just wash it. I don't have to bother with cat litter and whatsoever. But this cat, he did not go for 3 full days. At all. So the moment I put sand, he went. Like he has to have sand. If it's not sand, he just the entire time. And they have the same concept with the babies. Whereby they train the baby with the feeling. And for us, okay, we're not we don't have that kind of body training kind of thing, right? And because they're always there, they don't move around when they're in the nifas. So all they do is just put baby, put back. So we're all working and whatsoever, kan? So the moment you know and you talk to your child, and they can feel, they want to poo-poo, right? And they can rasa, dah boleh rasa kan? Then you teach them, when you want to tell me straight away, I'll bring to the toilet. So the diaper is there, but the training has begun. So you're teaching them first how to feel. When you feel it, tell me. Right? So don't just go. Tell me when you feel it. And then thereafter, they learn to identify the feeling. So once they know the feeling, it's easy. And they can just tell you when they feel it, and you bring them to the toilet. And that will make things easier. So that happens at the age of 3. Around there. 3. My mother, she said that she tolerated us when we were all like below 2. So, because she was 7 kids, so she's like, I can't do bad diapers for everybody. So she's like 2 years old, semua orang toilet train. Like, halas, make her life easier. Right, so, but now like you see 5-year-olds with diapers, 4-year-olds diapers, they can understand, they can understand, teach them. Right, okay. Maksudnya Muhammad. Alright, that is about, okay, so when you wean off your child, right, at this point, at the age of 2, right, when you wean off the child, of course there is, someone asked me before about pregnancy and breastfeeding. So when you are pregnant, right, should you breastfeed? It really depends on your body. Right, some women, they cannot. Right, some women, they would actually miscarriage. They will miscarry when they breastfeed while pregnant, some women. Right, so it really depends on you. So you need to really feel. Right? If you can't, then don't. Right? Because your hormones have changed. Right? Because of the new baby that is coming. Okay? So that is that. Alright. So when you wean the child, so it says here, so وَبَعْدَ مَا يُفْتَمْ تَجِدُ يَشْتَهِي أَكَدْ طَعَامِ دَائِمَ لَا يَنْتَهِي. Right? So here the ulama say, Alright, so here the ulama say that when you wean them, now that you have weaned them, you will find them desiring food a lot. Right? You will find them doing that. Which is why they make the link that the breastfeeding after the age of 2 is just nafs. It's just pure nafs. They just want to feed their own nafsu. So you're not at all giving them something they need. But you're just buttering up the nafs. You're just expanding the nafs, feeding the nafs. Right? That will be an issue later on. Right, as they grow older. So when you stop with the weaning, they become very hungry. And they always want food. So now, he gives us a ruling. Right, a ruling on how do you control the nafs. So now the nafs of this child is manifesting. Right, and you're going to be the person to control the nafs. Right, it's on you now to control these nafs. How do we control the nafs? The nafs of a child, or of a human being, any human being, is controlled by the reins of the sunnah. The sunnah controls nafs. There's one blanket rule. The sunnah controls nafs. So somebody who is hungry wants to eat straight away, right? The sunnah stops you. The sunnah says, go and wash your hand. And the sunnah says, sit down. The sunnah says, right hand. The sunnah says, eat only what you need, and not more than that. So the sunnah is basically a rein lah. A rein around the nafs, like a muzzle. It forces the nafs to be into shape. Right, so if somebody is tired, want to sleep, the sunnah says what? Go and take wudu. Right, so it's like, you can't even like go on your bed and just drop off and fall asleep. No, the sunnah says get up, take your wudu. Cold water, also cold water, take your wudu. Come back, sit down, dua. If you can, surah muluk. If you can, surah waqi'ah. If you can, surah, if your nafs can really do all of these sunnahs, you have your nafs in control. And so the sunnah is the strongest way whereby you keep your nafs in control. So the first thing when a child is showing his nafs, you begin to implement sunnah. You begin with the sunnahs. Right? So he says here, teach him to eat with his right hand. Right? No eating with the left hand. And force this on the child. Washing the hands. Right? So no eating, go and wash your hands first. Wash your hands. Right? Come back, dua before eating, and then eat what is near. This is the most difficult, because if you see something on the other side that is more enticing, right, you try to reach over everybody to take that thing, right, because your nafs wants it. Right? But if you can, the sunnah is eat what is near you. Right? But of course, you have a table that circle and go right around. Right? But basically, the nafs, implementing the sunnah. So not just in eating, in sleeping, in going out of the house, in coming back into the house, in talking, right? Teach the sunnah of talking. Right, so not to shout, not to demand, right? You need to be an aware parent, right? So don't give in to all this kind of bad behavior that is without sunnah, right? Interrupting, right? Teach them how to hold your hand if they want to say something to you when you're speaking to somebody else, right? Teach them, if you want to talk to me, right, and I'm talking to somebody else, hold my hand first. When I'm ready, I will talk to you, right? So in a way to teach them all the adabs of not interrupting you when you are speaking. Right? Important, And it also, of course, if you want to train your child to come to classes, you can, if you feel you can lah, right? I mean, if you feel you want to, right? But I know it can be very distracting, right? But of course, if you want to train, you can train, right? But it will be a training. It will be a training, It will be effort, right? Or you can wait until he's 7 and up, which I would recommend. If you want to train them on the mosque, on going to mosque, going to majlis and whatsoever, right? If you find your child difficult, then 7 and up, right? Whereby they're able to think, right? And understand your instructions, right? And then also not to rush to eat before your companion eats. It's all from the sunnah to eat together, right? So and the sunnah of eating together, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam was known never to eat a meal by himself, ever. So everything he ate, he will go out and look for somebody to eat it with. So he would share everything that he eats. So if you can, right, get them to wait, have all of you sit together. If you can have dulang style. And my mother, what she used to do, it was that because there were a lot of us, 7 of us, so she would make us sit around her, right, and then she would feed. Right. So we had this culture of her feeding us till we were quite old also. Because we like the manja lah yang mother. Right? But basically she has a lot of niyat, a lot of du'as in her feeding of us. And that also makes us eat our vegetables and whatever lah. So she puts everything in the rice and makes us eat. And of course the adab of not wasting food. Right? So if they cannot finish, you don't have to force them, but let them keep it. Or teach them to keep it. Right? And then later you can finish it. Right? So but don't let them throw away the food. Let them understand when you throw away food, the food will cry. It's a hadith, the food will cry. And the food will cry because you leave the food for the shaitan to eat. So it's a very nice story to tell children. You see? It will cry, the food will cry. And because you're going to leave the food there, the shaitan will come and you eat the food. And your shaitan will be very strong. Nasi menangis That's good. Then why they still always eat nasi? Primary one book, Nasi Menangis. Yeah, so teach them lah. Vegetables. I train them on vegetables from the young age. Cut it small if you don't want them to see it. Right? I mean, whatever lah. Try your ways, Try your ways. So that is under your physical health, right? Of food and also spiritual health of not desiring so much food. As mentioned before, meals. Right, so that they don't graze through the day, right, and with the snacks and whatever. Snacks and sugar, it feeds the nafs. Right, so if you can cut, and it will help them in their life as they control their nafs. Right, it will help them a lot. Right, so eat with people, right, and eat what is near you. Right, so and especially do not eat before the older people eat. Adab. So adab with the old, right? So the father come back, mother come. Basically, if you can have like a meal time together with the parents, right, and all the grandparents, just have it into a family thing, right? Of course, I don't have to say it, right? But no eating in front of the TV. I don't have a TV dinner. Right? That is like the worst culture that you can have. TV dinner. Do not do that. Right? And of course, I know there are parents who do use the iPad to try and, pacify the baby while they are feeding. Right? Don't do that also. Right? Just, you can tell stories, if you want to. Right? You be the entertainer. Right? You tell stories. Right? Don't do all these things. Inshallah. Okay, we'll pause there for today. Inshallah. Inshallah, this we can finish this in just a few more months. Inshallah, few more months. I'm aiming to do it 3 months. So that you don't drag too long. Okay? Or 2 months, 2 more months. Alright, any questions about this? Yes. When you are pregnant also, try not to be outside after Maghrib. Try not. Of course, if you're working and everything, you have no choice. Right? But as far as you can, try not to be outside after Maghrib. Try not to go to the beach especially. Right? Try not to go near water areas because or jungles or whatsoever, because these are places whereby jinn reside. right? And jinn can see into your womb, right? And I think I told before that I have personal friends, right, and relatives who have had this jinn come to them and take their child. Right? So they can see into your womb, and if they like it, they will follow you right around. So as far as you can, right, protect. Of course, read it around your child, Yasin whatsoever, right? Protection, okay, spiritual protection over your child. You are at the spiritual, you are being exposed spiritually, right? So try your best. My own auntie, she told me she had twins inside, right? But the this like orang boyan ke apa, right? They came to her in a dream, and she said that she was out that night, and she came back, and that night she got the dream. Right? By the orang boyan, they came to her, and then they said that we're going to take one. Right? And she said in her dream she was crying and crying and crying, trying to stop them, but they took one. Right? And so when she woke up, there was only one twin left. Right? There's two of them, only one left. And my own personal friend, her twin sister was taken. So in fact, she told me that her mother was pregnant with two of them. There were two in there. And then one night the mother dreamt that a couple, old people, came to her and said that pinjam sekejap. So when she woke up, and she was 6 months pregnant now, with twins. She woke up, she was flat. The whole thing gone. That's a real story. True, she was one of my best friends. And her mother herself told me. She was flat. And she didn't even notice. So she got out of bed, she went to the kitchen. And then her mother-in-law saw her. Her mother was like, what happened to you? Then she was like, what? Then she was like, where's your baby? Then she was like, and she said for 1 week she was crying. She didn't know what happened. There was no miscarriage. There was no blood. There was nothing. They went to the hospital. There was nothing in there. It was like a perfectly normal womb. Nothing. And she was pregnant for 6 months now. And then just after 1 week, they came back. And then every day she dua and cry and cry and cry. She didn't know what to do. Right? So they came back, and then they said thank you to her in a dream lah. Thank you. You're like, what? They said they thanked her, and they gave back, but they gave it only one. Of the two, they took the other one. Yeah, so that's why it's not. Don't think all your superstition tau. It's not. It happens. It happens in our time. This is my friend tau. It's my age. So it happens in this time. Don't. She went out at night. But water is where jinn reside. Water, mountains, jungle. These are all their houses. So try not to do all these things.
Is it safe to travel?
When you're pregnant. Where you want to go?
Places where you wouldn't go with so many people.
Yeah, I think when you're expecting, the best place to go is Mecca. Because you got no head. You got no menses. So you can do all your solat and your ibadah and whatsoever. You have no menses to worry about. Do your hajj, if you can lah. Umrah, go and do lah. And when you want to go when you're pregnant? Kan? Yeah, but of course don't go like jungle trekking, like mountain climbing. Right? Mountains are the abode of jinn. They are. Right? Don't go to lakes. Right? It's all the abodes of jinn. Don't perturb them, and don't test them. And they like to follow pregnant women. Right? And I know you all heard all the stories about these creatures lah. They follow pregnant women. Okay. Like ghost story at the end. At the end of the story of the class, and ghost stories again. But it's true. It's true. Any question? No. Okay. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. اللهم انفعنا ما علمتنا زدنا ما ينفعنا زدنا علما يا رب العالمين. وإلى حضرة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.